So I'll get to it because it's gonna take a minute for me to go over everything when it comes to inputting a listing. Just so
Yeah.
everyone knows, inputting a listing in the MLS will probably take about 45 minutes, especially if it's your first time. So definitely giving yourself time to get that in when you're telling your clients when it's going to go live. All right, so I'll get started. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to type in the chat. I'll try to keep an eye on the chat or just take yourself off mute. And I'll
Okay.
definitely pause a few times throughout to see if there's any questions. All right, so I'll go ahead and get started. So first thing first, when going into the MLS, you'll click on the first icon that says CoreLogic Matrix, and I'll bring you into a new tab. All right. So for today's class, we're going to search the property prior to me inputting it into the MLS. So when you have your listing and you're ready to go ahead and input that in the MLS, you'll want to search it first to see if it's ever been in the MLS. So in here, beach. So the name of my property is 841 Beach Hill Road, and it's been in the MLS 4 times. I'll want to look at the MLS number as to when was the most recent time it was listed in the MLS. So it looks like in 2021 was the last time it was listed in the MLS. You click on that, it'll bring you to the old MLS page, give you a little rundown of what the close price was, what it was listed for in 2021, and then you'll definitely want to go ahead and copy the MLS number here. And I'll show you why that will be beneficial. All right, and then to input a listing in the MLS, you'll click on Input, Add New, and depending on what type of listing you're inputting, majority of the time it's going to be a residential input. Click on Residential. Okay, and then this is what the next slide will be, or the next prompt will be, and you can either fill from the relist tax about the property or from a previous MLS listing. Hence why I copied and pasted that MLS number. So I'm going to copy listing / fill from existing MLS. So this is where I will go ahead and copy and paste that MLS number under fill from. I'll click that. And now it saves you so much time because everything that was filled out in the previous MLS listing will automatically fill out as much information as it can in your incoming listing. Okay, so the very first section, so how you'll go through each section when inputting it is just following these arrows. So the first one is location, and it says map not found. You'll want to click get latitude and longitude from address, then click update map. So once you click get lat and long from address, now I have a proper point. Click update map, and now you're set there. And then from here, you'll just want to make sure that everything is properly filled out. The street number is 841, Beach Hill Road. If it was like a unit number or a apartment, you would put there, state, Cuyahoga County, Mayfield Village, the zip code. Now we want to look for the township, if applicable, and then definitely the school district. So anything that is highlighted in yellow is required for you to complete. So the actual township, that information you can get from relist tax. So while you have this uploaded, you can also hover over tax, click relist tax. A new tab will upload so that you can kind of just go back and forth. Then under relist tax, so this is going to be the auditor site. You'll type in 841 Beach Hill Road. Wait a sec to see if they'll pre-populate for you. Here we go. Okay. From that. All right, I found 841 Beach Hill Road. Click on the location itself, then click report. And then it'll run the report of the property. So then on here, it'll give you all the information in regards to if there's a township, what school district it's associated with, the parcel number down here. Okay, cool. So it looks like the township is Mayfield Village. So I'll go ahead and go back here, look for Mayfield Village. Awesome. Okay. So I filled out everything properly on this one. So I'll go to the next slide. Okay, and then this is just reiterating that you have read and agreed no offers of commission will be entered into this listing. Check that. Let me click on the next arrow. Your information, since you're inputting this through your MLS, this should pre-populate. If you're on a team and your team lead is as your co-lister, you can go ahead and find their information there. So for example, who is on my team? Let's say Brian Brooks was on my team. Cool. You can go ahead and just click it. They'll pre-populate as well. Okay. Next slide. Please click the Save as Incomplete button at lower left level. So when you go to say you're like, okay, we're not gonna make it active until tomorrow. You can still do everything in here and just prep it so that when you go back to make it active, it will save all the information. So I can go ahead and click Save as Incomplete. And then when I'm like, okay, I need to do more searches or look for other things for a different client, whatnot. That way that when I go back to input or edit that listing, I can go ahead and just start where I left off. Residential, here I am. Okay. So now we went from agent office to then listing contract. So again, everything that is in yellow must be complete. Is the owner of the property an agent? That's what this is asking. I'm saying no. The list price you would put here. If you don't know, as of now, then obviously you can leave it blank. But prior to going active, once you and your sellers agree on the list price, put that here. So let's, for example, you don't need to do commas or anything. Just make sure that you do the correct amount of zeros. Your list contract date. So this is going to be the date your listing is going live. So if we're going live tomorrow, okay. And then the expiration date. Normally it's 6 months out from the listing contract date, and depending on what you put and agree with the sellers. But so 6 months from June is going to be December. We'll do December 10th. So you just do forward a month. All right, so it's gonna be December 10th is when the contract will expire. Listing agreement is gonna be exclusive right to sell. Listing service type, full service. Online bidding, no. Warranty. So what warranty means is, are your sellers going to provide a home warranty for the buyer coming in? Yes or no? Right now, the same no. And then where it says special listing conditions, this is if, like, is it the property going in for closure? Would also be another, if it's a new build, builder, auction. Right. So for example, the one you choose is going to be, and then possession, you could always put negotiable when possession, or I like to do time of transfer. So possession normally happens once the property transfers. And then listing term. So this goes over,
Did we lose her?
Like,
okay, so sorry about that. I have no idea. Maybe if that was my Wi-Fi or what went on. Okay, wait, hold on. All right, sorry about that. So basically where I left off is right here where I talk about the listing terms. And this is what type of loans your seller will accept. So for example, majority of the time you're going to click cash, conventional loan, V or FHA loan, and VA loan, sometimes USDA loan. Right. And then the next thing you'll do is click legal tax, and it will ask you for the um, taxes of the property from the previous year, so 2024 is where you'll put that in. Actually, it's the bars, so I don't know everything is. Cool. So total taxes, and again, how you'll find this information is going to be on Realist Tax, the auditor's site. Go on here. All right, and then we see, so we don't, it's not showing me taxes for 2024, but we'll go ahead and put the taxes for 2023, because that's the most recent information we have, most up-to-date information. So you want to copy that number and put that under total tax. You don't have to include the comma or the money sign. And then this is going to be for 2023. And then also on here, you want to be aware if there's any in, or if this is a homestead property. And it looks like there is 0 for both. So it's not homestead and not, and there's no assessment. So go ahead and do no. No. Association, so if the next one is about association, so if there's an HOA involved, you want to put all of that information here. And the HOA is the homeowners association, so if there was like, if there is a subdivision and they had a community center that they would go, or if there was like a maintenance fee for taking care of the lawn services or plow, you would get all that information from your seller. So there's no HOA for this property, there's no maintenance, and there's no land lease. And now we're gonna go to rooms. And this is super nice because since we filled it out from the previous time it was listed in the MLS, a lot of this already was completed for us. So 15 rooms, there's 3 full baths. And when you're filling this out, you have, again, everything that's in yellow, you are required to input something. So even if there's no full bath on the lower level, which is considered the basement, you would have to put 0. And then there's 1 full bath on the first level, and then 2 full baths on the second floor. Total number of bedrooms, and then bedrooms on main floor, which is the first floor, there's 1. And then laundry count, if there's 1 laundry, you definitely have to just identify which floor that's on. And again, lower level means the basement. And then like you don't need to put the length and width of each room. If you have that information, great. And if the seller did lots of updates to the house, it would be nice to input the width of each room, but again, it's not required. When you do go ahead and input a room, so for example, like there was a great room. I just deleted it, but I'll show you how to add that. So again, luckily everything was pre-filled out for us this time. So if I wanted to add more rooms and give a description, so for example, the great room, what floor level is it on? It's gonna be on the first floor. What does the great room include? The great room includes a bar, beam ceiling. What type of flooring does it have? It literally lists you all the flooring you could possibly think of. And if it doesn't, then you can always click other. For example, it has carpet. So being as specific as possible per each room is helpful. You can add and delete rooms. So again, each room you input, you just have to make sure that you put what level it's on. Anybody have any questions on it so far? No? Okay, let's keep going. Features. Now, again, a lot of this information you're going to find on, if it wasn't already pre-filled out from the last MLS form, you can find it on Realist Tax. Property subtype, single family resident, year built. Where did I find the year built? I found it on the auditor website. So, public record. And then, is there a basement? Yes. Is there a fireplace? Yes. How many fireplaces are there? Shocking, this property has 3 fireplaces. Above grade finished area is gonna be everything that's not included the basement. And then the basement's gonna be below grade finished area. So again, you can find that on the Realist tab. Definitely just like practicing and maybe inputting your house or parents' house. your friend's house to kind of get an idea of how to do this will be very helpful, especially when you're looking at both the realist tax and if it was listed in the MLS previously. Okay, so right here we have building square foot. So it shows that realist tax is showing 2,730 square feet, and then the MLS is showing 3,500. I most likely would use the 2,730 square feet because that number is showing up everywhere else on the property. And just so you don't get into you don't get in trouble for the estimated square footage. So we'll put that as above grade square footage. Zero. And then the basement square footage is 896. And I got both of those from the auditor's website. Okay, garage, yes, and there's 2 spots for the garage. Is there a pool? No. Waterfront? No. Carport? No. And then the lot size. Luckily, this was already listed for us, but again, if you didn't have that information, it'll be in relist. So the lot acres are right there. So it's a little less than a half acre. And you got this information from the auditor's website. Actually says relist. Got from relist. Okay. Style of the home. It's a split level, so that's already pre-checked for us. Actual year built date. Is there a basement? Yes, there's a basement and it's partially finished. How many levels is the house? So it's a split level, so you could say 1 and 1/2 and 2. Because there are stairs and it's a split level, so I like check both to because it is not a ranch, so it would it be obviously a split level, and then there is a second floor and a basement, but also a split level to the family room. Heating type. So there's a gas fireplace, then a wood fireplace, and heating forced air and gas. Cooling, there's central air. You could also, if there are ceiling fans in the rooms, you can also check ceiling fans. Again, a lot of this information, if you want to double check it, is on Relist. So right here you see heating type, forced air, fuel type, gas, it's central air. And then it also shows when the year is built. That there is sewer is public service. Water is also public. So definitely just like having an idea of what the relist says with those. Where appliances, again, it's not required for you to complete this and it's not in yellow, but it is nice so that you can have it all there for buyers who are looking at the property and for the agents showing them the property as to what appliances are going to be included in the sale of the home. So for example, if they're including the dishwasher, the dryer, the garbage disposal. These are just the most common ones included. The microwave, the range, refrigerator, and the washer. The most common ones that are included. The MLS has gotten super specific with other features. So if there's a bar, there's beam ceiling, um, let's see, what other things? If there's like a little eat-in kitchen area, you can do that. So you can get as specific as you want with each of the interior features and the exterior features, which is down here. Fireplace features, like if there's one in the den, and if there's also one, I believe there's one in the kitchen. If they have updated windows, you can add that there. If they're leaving behind their washer and dryer, you can kind of put like where that's located. So if it's in the basement, accessibility features, patio porch. So there's patio deck. And then other additional things. So for example, if there's, this is nice to also add lot features. It's going to be if it's on a cul-de-sac, or if it's close to the clubhouse, if there's an HOA and they're close to the clubhouse, if you're surrounded by a golf course, and also put golf course. So it's nice that it has all those additional lot features. And then now for the required things to complete. So there's an attached garage, so the parking features, attached garage. There's a drain in the garage, electric. It'll come with a garage door opener. Its garage is heated, paved. So this is super nice. Again, all this information was already pre-filled out. Water, public. Sewers, public. Okay. And just making sure, because this just said pool features above ground, but there was no pool, so I'm gonna uncheck that. Okay, green energy. So if the property does have any green energy features, this is where you can fill that out. And then remarks. So everyone knows, for the remarks, public remarks are gonna be a description of the property. I know a lot of the times everyone's like super nervous to write the description. The new thing is to use ChatGPT, but making yourself not sound as robotic as ChatGPT can sound. But the public remarks are going to be where everybody can see the description of the property. So for example, once you make the property active on the MLS, that's how it goes live on Zillow and Realtor.com. And everything you put under public remarks is for the public to see. So the description of the property goes here. So description of home. You can also include the most recent updates of the home, its prime location. So definitely looking up descriptions that other agents have wrote and kind of creating your own twist off of that with the features of the home. And now the next box where it says private remarks, also aka broker remarks. So this is, for example, like what only we as agents can see for each property. So when we go to look up properties in the MLS and it shows private, or it shows public remarks and then private remarks, definitely always remember to take a look at that before showing the property and when looking through the property, because this is where a lot of times agents will write like property being sold. So they're not going to take any, so they're not going to do any work for the most part. And you can, agents will also be type in, please remove shoes. Remove shoes. Please turn off all lights. You can also include like lockbox is on side door or front door. Anything you want to make sure that, like if there's a hot tub with the property, hot tub not included. Hot tub not included in sale of home. You can write that there. So anything that you want the agents to know, definitely put that in the broker mark. You can also put like how you want to receive offers. Like call listing agent with questions. And then you can just put your phone number. It just is redundant, but you can do that. So that's what is like an example of what you would put in the broker bar. Directions. Although everybody uses Google Maps nowadays or Apple Maps, you have to include directions. So I always like to go and type in Google Maps, type in the address of the property, and like the last me is what I use for directions. So let's see. Directions from the Lakewood office. All right, so I'm going to click on details. Take Seneca Road to Beach Hill Road in Mayfield. So literally you can just once you can copy that and then turn left onto so turn right onto Sound Center Road, turn left onto Seneca Road, and then from Seneca Road turn left onto Beach Hill Road. So in directions, you can go ahead and put that. Continue on Wilson Mills, take Seneca to Beach Hill Road in Mayfield. You can do that, or you can do left onto Seneca Road, then left onto okay. All right, now for showing. So again, depending on what your sellers would like, the majority of the time you're going to use showing time to schedule showings. And that's when you schedule showings for buyers to look at the property. And then obviously when you're representing the seller, you want to use showing time for buyers to come in to look at the house. So if your property is vacant, it's a lot easier to get buyers in because you don't have to worry about overlapping appointments or getting your sellers out of the house. Now, if your sellers are still living in the home, you just need to make sure that the showings are scheduled around their schedules. So it could be appointment only is normally what you would choose when scheduling showings and your sellers still live in the home. And you can give your sellers permissions to say yes or no to showings. And I'll show you that on as to how to fill that out as well. If the property is vacant, then you would be able to list the property as a go and show, which is lockbox. If you put the lockbox on the front door, you use showing service, use showing time link. All right, so if it's a go and show, then you would not check appointment only. You would go ahead and just do lockbox and use showing service and use showing time link to schedule showing. Now, if you didn't need appointment only, definitely check that. And this is, again, if your sellers are and want to approve or deny when people come in to look at the property. Where it says electronic lockbox, that is if you are using a Supra or a Centra lock box. So we're not using that. Lockbox serial number. You don't, so this would be the serial number on the lockbox, but you do not enter your lockbox combo here. And again, you don't have to complete that serial number, but just so you know what that means. All right. And then distribution. Display entire listing, yes. Seller photo opt out, no. So your seller does want to include photos of the property. Okay. Again, you don't have to complete this, but just so showing contact type, you could do showing service. And then here you can do use showing time link to schedule. Showing. A little redundant, but just so you have an idea of how the showings are going to be scheduled. All right. So I'm going to save as incomplete. And you can manage showing time here. But also, oh, you're like, oh, I do need to continue editing a part of this. All right. Let's see. Now you're like, okay, I updated what I needed to do. Now I'm going to validate to see if I filled out all the fields properly. Okay, so it's yelling at me that I didn't waive agent. No. Listing contract. Can happen in the future, must be within less than a day. Your listing contract date, so when your seller signed the listing, and then you have 48 hours to make it live. Sorry, we're gonna go live today. Expiration could still be 12/10. Okay. Showing. So since I click showing services, then you want to do the showing time number here. The showing time number. If that's the showing time number, then okay, I'm gonna validate. All right, so it looks like everything. Everything that this listing is ready to go to make active. So when you click submit property, then the listing is ready to go active. And then that's the last thing you do to make it active. I'm again going to click save as incomplete because we still need to upload the photos of the property. So you're like, okay, I need to take a break from inputting the listing. You're waiting for your photos of the property. You got a photographer. They sent you the photos of the property, so you're now ready to upload them to the listing. Go back to input, select your incoming listing. It'll look like this. Now you'll click on manage photos. Then you'll go to your save folder of all those photos that your photographer sent over. You save them to your desktop, however you want to save them. I like creating a folder and labeling the folder, the property address, and then inputting all those pictures in there. So for example, I already created today. So here's the folder. Control Shift and then you select all the photos. Now, key thing with the photos, most of the time when you hire a photographer to send you over the photos, they'll send them to you in order of walking through the property. But in case they don't, definitely make sure that your very first photo is the front of the home. And then the next photos following is going to be like you were walking through the home and looking at it yourself. So you want to make sure that it flows with how you would walk through the home. That way, when it becomes active in Zillow and Realtor.com, super easy to kind of tell like what's going to the property. All right, so the primary, so no matter what, if you're still waiting on photos, but your seller wants to go live, and then if you just want to upload the photos later, you can do that, but you must have a photo of the front of the property. And then you can always upload the additional photos later. So you have to have, the primary slot is the front structure of the property. Okay, so right now I'm gonna certify and save. I upload all of my photos. I believe there is a max of maybe, it's either 45 or 50 photos, so for the most part, you're allowed to upload all the photos, which is very nice. And then, now, what you'll also want to include is the residential property disclosure, and if applicable, the lead-based paint disclosure. And then how you're gonna upload that is through managed supplements. So for example, I wanna make sure I upload the completed residential property disclosure that I had my sellers fill out. Labeling it, choose file. Do I have a website? Open. So this is the RPD that my clients filled out, the residential property disclosure, also known as the RPD. That my clients filled out describing if there's any updates to the home, if there's any water issues, plumbing issues, they disclose it on there. And that document again is for the sellers to complete and then for you to upload under supplements in the MLS. So when you go to, let's see. There we go, property disclosure, supplement type, click upload. Make sure it uploads. So once you click upload, then it'll give you the option to then click save. All right, so when I said lead-based paint as well, so this property would include a lead-based paint disclosure as well, and then you want to upload that under the supplements portion in the MLS. And again, just how I did this, you would just title it lead-based paint, choose the completed and signed copy of your sellers, and then label it lead disclosure, lead paint disclosure, click upload, and then save. Right. Okay. So now we see our incoming listing. It's almost ready to go active. I input my supplement, which is the RPD and lead-based paint disclosure. And then another thing, if you want to include, if there's any like updates to the property, you could include like a list of updates or upgrades for if like the kitchen was redone, if there's a new roof, if they got a new water heater, or their windows are brand new. Definitely including that anywhere you can. Managed showing time is going to be where you could input your seller's information if they want to approve the appointments, or if it's a go and show, that's where you're going to put the instructions on where the lockbox is located and what the lockbox code is. And then once you go live, that's when you can then go back in and update if you want to host any open houses. It'll give you the option to do that. What else can it do? And then if you want to host any brokers opens, you can also do that. And again, you have to wait until your property is active to then edit and add in open houses or brokers open. All right, I know there's a lot of information. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, hey Kelly, are we gonna get any type of I don't know, something to carry with us to look at, guide us through this when because this was a lot to digest.
Yeah, so this video was recorded, so you can always reference it.
Okay,
And I'll send out the recording as
okay,
well. But
okay,
yes, actually a great question.
okay,
So when you are going on your listing appointment and want to make sure to include any updates that the property had, you can always bring this with you. It's called the residential listing input.
okay,
And this is super helpful to have because if you're used to just filling things out by hand and then going back and putting it in electronically, you can do it that way.
uh-huh,
This basically goes over what I just showed you in the MLS, section by section. So everything that is written in red is going to be a required field in the MLS. So just like everything in the MLS that you saw was yellow, that's basically everything in red here. And this will
okay,
help you, like, if you want to bring this with you on your listing appointment, you totally can. That way you know what questions to ask your sellers, like,
right,
is
this
there
is
an
not, yeah, I like
exhibit?
this, yeah. So we would fill this out and then go back later on and put it in electronically, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where do we get these forms? Where are they? We can
Yeah,
download them
great
someplace?
question. So these forms are going to be in Loop or they are in the MLS as well. And I will
Okay,
show you where you can find them in the MLS. If you go to your home screen, let's see, I believe they're in here. So where it says external links, if you click here for additional links. And then under here where it says MLS Now form, click on input sheet. And it gives you all the applicable input sheets. So if you're inputting the residential listing, which is what we just did, click on that. And it's a PDF of the residential listing input.
okay,
So if you go, what I just downloaded. All right, so right here is the residential listing input sheet. And then also what's very helpful is, as you can see, there's lots of information that MLS already has prep for you in here. So input a new listing, copy from another listing. They do have instructions on how to do so here. There's an MLS
okay,
training manual, listing input book. That could be very helpful too, to kind of go line by line on how to fill out the listing in the MLS. So I'll include that on my guide that I have here of everything I went over. But yes, great question. And then a lot of these documents you could also find in Loop.
okay.
Kelly, what about the other things? So like the lockbox. I've gone out and a realtor said that they had their own lockbox. Is that something we get
Yeah,
that we
great
have to
question.
purchase, or are they stored?
We do sell them in the office.
Okay.
So you can purchase one of our lock boxes, which is nice because it has the Keller Williams like cover for the lockbox. Also I know that I want to say like Home Depot and Lowe's sell lock boxes as well. But yeah, so you would have to purchase that as an agent.
Okay, and then instructions or a resource, you know how the realtor has their name and phone number on the sign? Is
Yes.
like that panel
So
where
we
w-
sell just generic ones through the office, but if you are
Mhm.
interested in customizing your own sign, we
Okay.
do have on 297 agent. And the 297 agent password, in case you never logged in there, is KWGM, all lowercase, all one word, KWGM 297. And then
Okay.
here you can order signs under resources, like marketing materials. And we work with third-party vendors to order signs.
Okay.
So there's
Perfect.
D-Sign and Oakley, and just making sure that you get the measurements of your sign, which is like that metal frame, those
Mhm.
measurements, so that
Yes.
you can just slide in whether you have a rider or you want to design your own sign for the center panel. And then we also have our leverage center. So if you don't want to do all that, you want to hire Tori to create your sign for you, you can schedule that with Tori. And then if you don't want to even input anything in the MLS, you can hire Liz to input everything for you in the MLS.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And
This was
more of
very
those
helpful.
services are under Explore Leverage. And this is where you can find like transaction coordination or marketing, your type of marketing. And say you want a custom project and have Tori create your sign, so you can schedule a consultation with Tori. Yeah, great questions, everyone. Definitely recommend bookmarking 297 agent. Very helpful for just things to explore and how to like get started, whether you want to start creating your own listing presentation or you're advertising a social media post about an open house you're hosting. Our KWGM logos are here. So very helpful in regards to like posting on social media. I think there's like black and white, red and black. So you have a lot of logos to choose from if you download them there. And then just kind of seeing what each tab entails and will help with organizing you and seeing what you want to focus on for your business. All right. Well, I'll be sure to email everyone over the link of the recording as well as include the little step-by-step process. Very basic as to how to input a listing in the MLS, but it also includes that listing input that Al was asking about, and then more of like rules and regulations of following in the MLS, making sure that you have that front photo before going live. And let's see what else is it very important. Once you do go live in the MLS, you have 48 hours to go live based on your listing contract. So say my listing contract was for today, I have to make my property live within the next 48 hours. Okay, cool. All right, well, thanks everyone for joining me today.
Thank
Appreciate your
you.
participation.
Thank
And then if
you.
you have any questions, feel
Yeah.
free to
You.